Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men power want? More power.
My name is Gianluca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Here we go, guys. Another Sunday, another show, and I must tell you, I'm extremely excited. I know this is becoming more and more like almost, I say, an international show. It started as a local show, and it still is, of course. But we know when I start to see that I have people calling me or reach me out from Germany, from Australia, from around the world, thanks to the internet, I think it's great. Because after all, what we're doing here, it is not just as Americans. We try to understand that what's happening in America, this erosion of our rights, it's happening everywhere around the world. So this is kind of comforting to see that we have other people from around the world try to fight the same struggle. But I tell you, what for me is the most important thing at the end is try to rebuild America from its foundation. I'm here as an American. When I became an American in 2005, I took this very seriously. I believe that this republic, it is under attack. And that's why I'm on this show. And if I had to find a recipe, or at least one of the answers, to try to fight back for our rights within the system and to take back this republic, I really believe that the most important thing is to be engaging, especially at local level, county level, because after all, the county is the microcosm of our country. That's what it is. And what is the most powerful position that I really believe we have in America is the county sheriff. Today, officially, I wanted to open the first hour of the show. I want to dedicate it to all the candidates out there who are running for county sheriff in Mohave County. And when I say to all, because I don't care which party you are, I don't care really what affiliation, all I care that you come, you are welcome to be here, and I want to give you a platform to express yourself. And just to be sure people understand where I'm coming from, people understand where I'm coming from. I am not anymore I don't belong to any party. First of all, I don't belong to anybody. That's a fact. But I intentionally became an independent a few years ago, especially since I started to have this radio show, because I don't feel obligated to any party. I never did before. The only obligation I have is to the truth and to the oath that I took when I became an American citizen. That means to the United States Constitution and to this republic. The rest, as I said, and I've proven in the past, I always put my personal friendship after. If you are a public person, that you run for public business, I would never put friendship before business. Business comes first, especially when it's public. So I want to just give the disclosure. So today we will start with one of the first candidates, and I'll give you the name in a few seconds right now. And I want to say, everybody out there, I'll be trying to reach out every one of you guys and girls that wants to be on the show. But in case I miss you, you're welcome to contact me directly. You can go to lovegunsfreedom.com. If you're running for Mohave County Sheriff, send me an email, zanna@zanna.us. Now, the first candidate I have the honor to have with me is Mr. Doug Schuster. Probably I misspell it. I'm going to get him on. He's going to correct me. I'm going to look, as usually, like really an idiot, but I'm going to find it right. But more important, I want to say something about Doug. I have know about him. I know when he was in the county sheriff, and I think I met him one time when I was at the Mohave County Sheriff Sheenan birthday party. So I think I remember also his face. I think I met him there. But more important, I want to say something that I want to say with him. Let me call him in to be sure I got the name right. Doug, are you there?
I'm here, Luca.
First of all, forgive me if I probably misspell or mispronounce your last name. Can you help me out to spell it out, your first and last name for me? You do it better.
Sure, you were close. My name is Douglas Schuster.
Schuster. Okay, thank you, and I apologize for that. Sometimes I'm terrible. I forget my name sometimes, seriously. But listen, I want to say, I think I met you one time. I was during one of the birthday party of former Sheriff Sheenan. You were there, I guess, right? You were still in service at the time. was a few years ago.
Yes, I do. I actually remember meeting you, Luca.
Yeah, I think I was the one that somehow looked like an idiot. I was sounding like a serenade, and I sounded like a moron. Remember that? I was singing a serenade for the sheriff.
I remember you doing it. I don't think you sounded bad at all. You have a nice
Okay.
voice.
But anyway, that's why I brought this up, because I want to be sure my listeners understand, regardless of what type of personal, sometimes we have preferences as a friends or whatever. But when it comes down to public business, I always put the truth first. And I give you the example with the sheriff. Probably you don't know all these details, but you need to know. And so my listeners. At the time, I was kind of close to the Sheriff Sheena. He invited me to his birthday party and all this stuff. And we had a decent relationship as a constituents, as sheriff. But I don't know if you're familiar, the big drama when happened when I was trying to pass out a flyer on Mohave County property when the Senator McCabe was in the county for his whatever it was, a speech or campaign or whatever you want to call it. And at the time, that day, I realized that unfortunately I wasn't happy with what Sheriff Sheena did that day. Because all I was asking to the sheriff, which law am I breaking that does not allow me to pass this little flyer that was also just the voting records of Senator McCabe on county property, on the parking lot. And the sheriff could have really stopped all the drama, just said, there is no law, just do what you have to do not disturb people and move on. Of course, I wasn't disturbing anybody. Instead, the answer was, I don't know. And I tell you, that day, even as much I had, good respect as a person, but as a sheriff, I didn't have any more that type of feeling. So for me, that's the point. I want to show you where I'm coming from. I don't have any personal allegiance to none, but to the facts that when you are run for office, or you are, let's say in this case, a sheriff, you must, fulfill your oath. That's for me the most important thing. So that's pretty much a little disclosure where I'm coming from. Now, talking about disclosures, I'm a friend of Jim Leeson. You know Jim, right?
I do.
Very good. And I want to say that to everybody because, as I said, doesn't mean anything. I mean, I have Jim many times on the show. And also, Jim is also is a person who's helping you out for your campaign. Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
That's correct.
Good. So everybody must know this is transparency. On the radio show, I don't have any type of any little secrets or anything. At the same time, I want to also say, just because for correctness, I've been doing business with Ed Mack from Plan Crazy that I bought a few years ago, one of his products 5 years ago, and I did some reviews about his rifle, whatever. But, doesn't mean anything. Also, people know, of course, that Ed is related to one of your opponents, or at least one of the other candidates that is running for sheriff. But as I said, for me, doesn't mean anything. That's business, and that's, I have a relationship with Jim, and I can buy stuff from Mac. But for me, now comes down to our business. Who you are, what can you offer to our county as a potential sheriff, and I stick to that. Okay? So, any questions before we start? Am I clear with everything?
No questions. I simply want to make the statement, Luca, that I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I understand this is a smaller county. A lot of people know each other. Doug Schuster is running for this position on his own merit, and I say that because I'm not concerned with what the other candidates do or do not do. I recognize that I am the most qualified person for the position, at least in my opinion, and I'm trying to get that information out to the voters. Luke, I will tell you, I'm not a politically minded person in the sense that I will not play into the drama that goes on with typical politics. I'm a retired deputy sheriff. I spent over 26 years with the Mohave County Sheriff's Office, and I'm looking to fix the most pressing problems that are currently facing the sheriff's office. That's why I put my name in the hat. Very good. So you already pretty much partially answered to some of my questions. First of all, who are you as a professional background? How, if I can put out a resume, you're applying for a job right now, a public job. Tell us briefly, something, of course, pertinent to this job. I mean, if you do like some sort of other things, like, I don't know, you like to collect butterflies or other hobbies not related, but something that could be pertinent, your skills related to this job. Give us the best curriculum you can put out. I give you the floor. Go ahead. Okay, well, I don't collect butterflies. I will tell you that I started my career with the Mohave County Sheriff's Office back in 1989. I was fresh out of high school, and I took a position as a detention officer. After 2 years of serving in that capacity, I was selected to go to the Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy in Tucson, and I became a certified deputy sheriff, state officer in 1991. I enjoyed the job. I really took to it. I certainly understood that my position was bigger than one officer in the sense that we were here to serve the community, and that's how I've always been. I'm very service-orientated. When I'm not working, I'm still out in the public doing what I can to assist because I believe in it. But getting back to my career, in 1995, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant. I spent close to 20 years in that position. I have worked all over Mohave County. I've worked in Lake Havasu. I've worked in Kingman. I've worked in Bullhead City and all the surrounding areas. And it was my good fortune to be able to do this, to get to know the various citizens throughout our county. And I'm very proud of what I was able to do. As a supervisor for the Sheriff's Office, one of my major accomplishments was in the area of boating safety. I was assigned to the boating safety program as the supervisor, I think it was 1998, and we had real problems. The lakes and rivers were overcrowded. There were significant issues with alcohol consumption and people operating boats, and as a result, the accident rate was at an all-time high. We dealt with many fatal boat accidents throughout each boating season when I first came into the program. And so we developed a master plan. And when I say we, I was tasked with the responsibility of coming up with a solution. So we were able to put together a master plan that incorporated several different things. Number one, educating the public. That was very important to get the word out there. So we began an educational campaign along with a zero tolerance campaign, and we elicited the support of all the other agencies that work the water to make this happen. And the reason I say I'm so proud of my accomplishments in that field is after 15 years of doing that job, not only did the accident rate and the alcohol consumption as it pertains to driving under the influence rate dramatically decrease, but the boat use throughout Mohave County almost doubled.
Okay,
so
interesting.
To break it down,
interesting.
Just to break it down for you, Luther, what I'm saying is back when I first started, for every stop we would make on the water, 1 out of every 5 people operating the boat were under the influence.
Wow.
When I left the program, 1 out of 175 people were found to be under the influence, so we made a dramatic change.
Yeah, it's very good. Excellent. And if I will remember, I like to, it's funny because now all two comes to my memory. I remember one day I was at the sheriff office, talking with Mr. Schuster. We were talking about some different topics. It was the new legislation of, not that new, but, the Patriot Act, things like that. I was in his office. I remember, I think you were coming through the office, and the sheriff was just telling me that just recently you went through some shootout. At least you had to, unfortunately, to shoot at some bad guy. Am I right or wrong? It was you, I guess, right? I remember that was you.
Yes, I was involved in a shootout back in 2007, and I'm very thankful for the outcome. Obviously, I'm here today to talk about it. It was an escaped convict out of Kingman. That convict had made his way to Lake Havasu. We had information that he was staying at a local residence. While checking the residence, we actually ended up clearing the backyard. Behind the block wall in the backyard, I was searching a power easement line, and I came under fire. The suspect was hiding in the bush, actually a large amount of shrub, and he started firing at me.
Wow.
I was able to return fire, and I'm just very fortunate that I was not hit, and I was able to resolve the problem to the degree that nobody else got hurt, not the officers on scene nor the general public. So it was a scary day, Luca.
Yeah, no, I remember that. See, sometimes I'm kind of slow, but I remember things, I remember the day like it was yesterday. You were walking through and the sheriff said, you see that guy? He told me all the story. So excellent. I'm glad, you see, it's a small world after all. I really realized that. So excited.
Yeah, you've got a good memory.
Yeah, sometimes I seem like I forget last names, but I remember they had the big pictures, okay? I'm sorry about that before.
Sure.
Anyway, good, excellent. I'm glad that we're going through this. Now, I'm going to start to bring you, for example, to specific things that you could do if you get elected, okay? First of all,
sure.
Probably you already answered partially when you just said whatever, all the things you said, but I want to be sure that is clear. Why Mohave County voters, okay, should vote for you above all the other candidates? This is going to be a big election. What do you have to offer specifically that others don't? I mean, what is your special things that you say, this is what I have more than you guys?
That's a great question. Here's how I answer that, Luca. I am the only candidate currently running for this position that spent his entire career with the Mohave County Sheriff's Office. I am intimately familiar with the operation of the department and its intricacies. There are other candidates that have vast law enforcement experience like I do, but their experience comes from a different agency, a local city agency, and most people are aware that the county and the city law enforcement programs are very, very different. They're unique in their own sense, and we really need somebody who has a strong understanding of how the department works and has a strong connection with the employees that currently work at the sheriff's office, because we have some significant problems. One of the big problems is retention, and I do have a master plan in place, very similar to when I talked about my involvement with the voting program. You have to recognize the problem, you have to document the problem, and then you have to seek resolution, and that's what I've done. So we can talk specifically about my master plan. I can simply tell you that I'm the only candidate running with the background that is necessary to move the sheriff's office forward.
Okay.
The other candidates, with their experience, were running for a city office or seeking appointment from a city office. That would be more specific to their tailored experience.
Okay, now tell me exactly, I'm sure there are different things that you would like to change or improve, okay? But I would like just to focus probably on two things that if you get elected as a sheriff, you would put as a priority to improve in the Mohave County Sheriff Office. Give me the two priorities that you would work with.
Okay, well, the very first priority that must be addressed is retention. We cannot keep deputy sheriffs here in Mohave County. We train them, we invest money into them, and then after a year or so, these young deputies, both men and women, decide that they can make more money at working at an agency within their own community, whether it be a local police department or the highway patrol or the like, and they leave. And so we have this ongoing cycle where we're hiring people in, we're investing money into these people. After they get a little bit of time and experience to a degree where we can start using them as solo officers, they leave, and we become a training ground for other agencies. These other agencies, they are thrilled to death. They don't have to put any investment into these deputies. They simply call up, take them, and they put them to work in a different colored uniform, and that has to stop. Along those lines, Luca, I can tell you that when you talk about retention, money's important. Of course, we have to find an avenue to get them to a degree where they're making a comparable wage to the surrounding agencies. You know, cops are cops. They know they're not going to get rich doing this job, but we have to become comparable to the other agencies. And then you have factors underneath that really come into play when you have such a misguided pay scale as we currently have. Morale suffers. Morale suffers to a degree where work performance is hampered. These young men and women sign on to do the best job they can. I believe they try to do that. But when they're short-staffed and they pick up extra workload, it wears on them. It wears on them significantly, and it's epidemic. So we have to correct that problem first and foremost if we're going to be successful, because ultimately it's about the service we provide to the citizens of Mohave County, and we can't get the job done when we're understaffed to the degree that we are.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, I have another question. I interviewed like a few weeks ago an Arizona State Senator, Kavanaugh. I guess, hopefully I pronounced her right. I'm always so bad. Anyway, interesting senator. He got some good points, something that I agree, some other things I do not agree. And one of those was at least something that was kind of controversial, was a bill that would have made unlawful to record a peace officer or a law enforcement, we will go there after we want to call it, within 21 feet. What is your position on that?
Yeah, I would be against that type of bill, and here's why, Luca.
Go ahead.
I've made it very clear in my run for this position that everything I do is transparent. I want the office to be transparent. I don't see any reason for a recording of any officer to be construed as a negative thing when these officers are out there doing a job, they're serving the public, and I don't see a problem with it being recorded. Now, having said that, I believe there are personal times. If an officer or officers, let's say, are in a private setting, they're having their lunch break or whatever, I don't think they would appreciate the intrusion.
Of course.
As far as passing a law to to change that, I would not be in support of that.
Okay, very good. Okay, no, I agree. When somebody's having a moment of break, the only thing, this is something normally happening in the middle of, could be an arrest or even just a stopping somebody, whatever type of situation. So, okay, interesting. Now, what do you think about, there were talk a few months ago, even a few years ago, I guess, even in Mohave County, about the opportunity, or could be also a burden, depends which type of philosophy you have, to give to our peace officers, to our deputies, like a little video camera. They can somehow always have a third eye to document everything they're doing, especially when they interact with the public. What is your position on this personal video camera device that our deputies could have?
I think it's a wonderful tool. We live in a day and age where we have the technology available to us, and I think we need to take advantage of it more. I said earlier, I truly believe that the law enforcement officers in Mohave County, not just at the sheriff's office, but at the local police departments and on all levels, their hearts are in the right place. They're out there to serve us, and I believe they deserve that protection. We've all seen the national media where a small clip of a big incident is shown portraying law enforcement in a negative light, and I believe that the facts should speak for themselves. If an officer were able to videotape the contact from start to finish, I see nothing but benefit in that.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Now, as you know very well, better than me, after all, I wasn't born here. I'm just an immigrant. But this country was founded on the rule of law, at least used to. I mean, the last 10, 15 years, I see different things, but let's say that's the foundation, okay? So we're supposed to have a rule of law that doesn't, see if, I don't care who you are, the law is the same for everybody, right? Now,
sure.
I'll give you a scenario, okay? Congress passes a law that all guns all over the 50 states must be registered. You are the sheriff of Mohave County. Hey, that's the law directly from Washington, D.C. What do you do?
In regards to having the weapons registered?
Yes, every home, every house every gun we have, we must be registered these guns. And in this case, the federal agencies, it could be Homeland Security, FBI, whatever they have, they say, hey, Sheriff, you must comply, and you must help us out to register these guns of these residents. What would you do?
Well, it's a great question, Luca. I can tell you it's a twofold answer for me. Number one, I am very tired of the long-reaching arm of our federal government. We've seen it time and time again where they're overstretching the authority. And if that were to happen, if they're to pass such a bill, they have the authority to do that. If they came to me as Mohave County Sheriff and told me I was going to be instructed to enforce that bill, that's not going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't encourage people to register their weapons because if it's a federal law, I believe that they should adhere to that. But it doesn't mean I have to actively take part in it, and I would not.
Okay. Question, what is the supreme law of the land that we have, in your opinion?
The Constitution covers the supreme law of the land, entitling everyone to their freedoms and their rights to pursue happiness. Yeah. And I believe very strongly in the United States Constitution.
Okay, and then of course the Constitution is to constrain the government mostly, and then we have attached this called the famous Bill of Rights, at least the 10th, the 10th amendment, from the 1 to the 10th, they are the personal individual rights. And after all, Congress, remember in past, you know better than me, American history, they did laws against civil rights, not even civil rights, talking about slavery. I mean, there was a legal case brought to the Supreme Court. It was called Dred Scott against Sanford, that pretty much the Supreme Court said slavery was legal. I mean, at that point, every one of us must decide what you want to do. You want to follow the law that could be against the human rights or against the Constitution, and more important, the individual rights expressed, enunciated, and enumerated, in the Bill of Rights, or just follow the law. For example, if you were, one of these peace officers or policemen who arrested Rosa Park because it was breaking the law, what would you have done then? Follow the law or maybe something else? What is your answer?
Me personally, I would not have arrested Rosa Parks. I believe very strongly in the First Amendment. I believe very strongly in the Second Amendment. And here's the thing, Luca. When we're talking about the Bill of Rights, that is an understanding. There's a given understanding that these rights shall not be taken from us. They were set forth for generation and generation to come. That was the intent of the Founding Fathers. And I want to stress to you that I believe in that authority. There's more than just the Bill of Rights. The federal government has the authority to act within what is written into that Constitution and nothing more. Okay? But there's a misconception. For the past 2-3 decades, we keep seeing an extension of that. It's clearly in violation of the Constitution, but it's as if the Constitution did not have the backbone it used to. Mm-hmm. So all I can tell you, sir, is that in Mohave County, the Constitution will bind us, and it will control our performance, and it will control the way we serve the public.
Perfect. Okay, very good. Yes,
I
clear.
hope that makes sense to you.
Very sense. I'm just trying to go through this because there's something that, many people know already about it, but, sometimes they want to know these questions, especially from you or
Sure.
any other candidate that may run for office. Now, talking about something that I think is really important, especially for your office, did you ever heard about the Supreme Court case, Mack Prince against the United States? That was a part of a Sheriff Mack lawsuit. They ended up on federal court, Supreme Court case. Did you ever heard about that Supreme Court case, Mack Prince against the United States? Or maybe even better.
No,
okay. Did you ever heard about Sheriff Mack?
Sorry, Luke. I was just going to say I know Sheriff Mack, or I should say I know of Sheriff Mack, but I have not heard of that bill.
Okay.
Or that case.
Okay, there's something that I'm sure maybe you should contact, because Sheriff Mack is a great guy. Okay, they'll give you the short story. In 1997, there was a ruling from the Supreme Court case that Mack, the little sheriff that he was in Graham County, he challenged the federal government, exactly the enforcement of the Brady Act. And it was historical what he did alone, because the county even didn't support him. He was able to win this decision at the Supreme Court, where pretty much reinstated or reminded to the federal government that the federal government has no authority in our counties unless the sheriff or the local government, in this case the sheriff, wants them in. And there are only 3 exceptions that they were allowed to be in. But the most important was that, yes, we have a 10th Amendment, and yes, we have a separation of jurisdictions. So the bottom line was the Sheriff Mack won this Supreme Court case, and there was a great message for all the county sheriffs around the nation that they don't have to comply with anything coming from Washington. After all, you have your jurisdiction, or at least the sheriff has the jurisdiction. So whenever you have a chance as a potential, I'm your potential constituent, I would really invite you to contact Sheriff Mack, because he has incredible literature and all documents that you can really enjoy to study this case. That is very short. You don't need to become a lawyer to study what happened, but I think it's very fundamental for your potential career there as a sheriff. Very good.
That sounds great. Look, I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Perfect. Okay, now let's go back to reality. December 2011, 31st of December, night of, almost Happy New Year. Mr. Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, also called NDA. They're pretty much now codifying the indefinite military detention without charge or trial into law for the first time in American history. What happened now with the NDA of 2012, there is a clause that gives the authority to the president, authorize the president, and all the future presidents, doesn't mean that's going to happen with Obama, to order the military, not even anymore the civilian law enforcement, to pick up and indefinitely imprison people, capture anywhere in the world, even on U.S. soil. And the beautiful thing, and I've been sarcastic here, without due process, and there is no more evidence, no more habeas corpus, no more the body of the crime. We go before pre-Magna Carta, just because suspected to be a terrorist. Now, what would you do if you're elected sheriff and some of your constituents, maybe by accident, maybe we don't know, because anyway, they don't give us any explanation, would be facing such a scenario to be kidnapped by the federal government? What would you do as a county sheriff?
Great question, Luca. I go back to what I said earlier in the sense that I'm a long-term police officer, deputy sheriff, and I believe strongly in the law. And in the law, there's a little thing called due process, as you had mentioned. There's also a little thing called probable cause. It's something that every officer understands, and there must be probable cause that exists to detain a person suspected of a crime We have a big problem in our country with terrorism. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I have a strong stance against terrorism, and anything we can do as a county to support putting an end to domestic terrorism, we will do, but it has to be within the law. I think if I understand what you're saying is if the federal government were to come in and want to take one of our citizens based on suspicion, okay, well, in that situation, I'm going to be very active first and foremost. If there is suspicion, I want to know what the suspicion is. I have no problem with the temporary detainment of a person under those circumstances, but if probable cause doesn't come from that suspicion, then I'll be the first one fighting them to get out, fighting to get them out, because that's how the law is supposed to work. Everyone is entitled to due process.
Yeah, and remember, this is now it goes to levels deeper. We're talking about, first of all, indefinite detention. In the clause is very specific. As Senator Graham said, you don't need an attorney, and more important, we let you out when we want. So that's going to be very interesting. It's all out there. I mean, it's not a conspiracy anymore. There have been lawsuits and, different organizations, let's say conservative organization trying to denounce it, also liberal organization, whatever. This is a fact. The new America we're living in right now. All right, interesting. Now, question. We have already in Mohave County, correct me if I'm wrong, like some sort of a volunteer posse. Is that right?
We do have a volunteer posse at the sheriff's office.
Yes.
It's degraded over the years. It's not the program it used to be.
Okay, because my question was exactly: do you believe in the creation of an armed and regulated, let's say, auxiliary posse, or you just, for example, right now happy with the posse that we have? That I know there are some sort of, let's say, scouts or volunteers that they can just be there as a help, but they cannot really, be a practical help. All they can do is maybe call for you guys, for the officers. How would you organize the new posse under you if you were a sheriff?
Very good. Well, number one, I don't really like the term posse. I believe very strongly in volunteer programs. That's part of my platform.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce a variety of different volunteer programs because there are people in our county who are willing and able to serve, who are willing to donate their time, and we have a large base of experience that we're not tapping into. So, yes, we are going to establish volunteer programs, probably the likes that this county's never seen before, because I need those extra eyes and ears on the street. I think what you're talking about, Luca, is more of a county militia, controlled militia. And believe it or not, I support that as well in this vein. I think that we should always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I do plan on organizing, and I don't like the word militia. I only use that because that's the verbiage in the Second Amendment. But we will have a group of volunteers that are properly vetted, meaning that we know that they are lawful, that they are able to possess firearms, and then it's critical that they receive training. And then the last step would be, Luca, to make sure that we have policy and procedure in place that they must adhere to. And the reason I say this, we've had volunteer programs in the past where people get in and they try and overstep their authority, and then lawsuits and other negative things come from it.
Yes.
So we'll set policy saying this is what you can do, this is what you're expected to do, and if they violate that policy, they're out.
Okay.
However, we want the good men and women out there that are looking to help, and I have a great deal of respect and admiration for anybody who's willing to volunteer their time. So, yes, you will have a large volunteer.
Okay, good. Okay, very good answer. Now, I'm sure, funny because I was going to ask you the next step, talking about the militia, especially in Arizona, because we have a constitution and we have, of course, our state laws. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Title 26, Article 2 of the Arizona Revised Statute about the militia. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And there are, of course, some subsections, the composition of the militia and who is exempt. And, of course, also the different type of militia. Now, we have the militia divided in the National Guard of Arizona, the State Guard when organized, and then there is the unorganized militia. And then, we're talking about 26.122, Section B. The National Guard consists, of course, officers, warrant officers, enlisted personnel, blah, blah, blah. And then we also have something that not many states have. I mean, this is part of our Arizona basic foundation, okay? We're talking about the unorganized militia, Section E. That consists of the members of the militia, no members of National Guard, and no members of the State Guard. So pretty much that's something that, I don't call it, I know that you said, I don't want to mention it too much as a militia, but, it's not a bad word. It's part of our Arizona Revised Statute and also our Arizona Constitution. So everybody between the age of 18 and 45, if I'm correct, or 46, is automatically member of our militia. And I want to say that also to the people that they try to demonize this word, especially most of the times. I don't want to call left or right, but we know the story. Instead, automatically in this state, every man between 18 to 45 or 46, I will read it again, automatically we are part of the militia. So that's something interesting to remind to the rest of the population, okay? It is nothing but within our own laws. That's pretty much the story. Okay, you already answered, by the way, to this question. Now, I have a more specific question. I think something you're going to probably enjoy. What is for you the difference between a law enforcement and a peace officer? And how would you consider yourself?
Okay, you kind of broke out on that one. The difference between law enforcement and a peace officer?
Yes, and how do you consider yourself?
Well, honestly, you're kind of mincing words there because both kind of mean the same. Law enforcement is just that. When I think of law enforcement, I think of officers who are, black and white enforcing the law.
Mm-hmm.
A peace officer is somebody who maintains the peace
mm-hmm.
and enforces the law as necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Luca, the easiest way for me to answer that is I'm a combination of both.
Okay.
I'm a very open, honest person, and I have a very strong sense of what is right and what is wrong. And I do believe that there's a gray area, and unfortunately I've seen in law enforcement where common sense has been thrown out the window and it's ridiculous.
Okay.
We have a job to do in law enforcement. I get that. We will enforce the law. When people break the law, they will be held accountable. But that's everybody. That's just how it is,
mm-hmm.
myself included. But there has to be some common sense that goes with that.
Yes. For example, going back to the case of Rosa Park, in my own personal view, how I look at that. If I was the police officer of that case and I was following the order, say you must arrest this woman because she's not complying with the law and she must sit in the back of the truck or the bus, that would be
right.
a law enforcement operation because I'm just enforcing the law. A peace officer, I'm binded by the basic principle, first of all, that, Bill of Rights and Constitution there, but the supreme law of the land, but more important, I want to keep the peace. And I think at that point, I need to follow not just what some man in Washington tells me or the local city council can say about the law, but must also comply with the basic human rights that probably sometimes, even legislators can miss, it's part of human history happening in every civilization. So that's pretty much the way I would look at a peace officer. But anyway, interesting.
Sure. And Luke, I was going to say too, I agree with 100% with what you're saying. When I look at the Rosa Park incident, I would have deemed that to be an unlawful order. That's an order against mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're dealing with people's civil rights, I don't think there can be any dispute. And that's the problem we've had for many years with our federal government. Things are changing, and they're changing in a negative direction. And we complain about it as a society. We all complain about it, but nothing's getting done.
Mm-hmm.
We see these politicians getting in there saying one thing and doing completely the opposite. And that's why I said at the beginning of your show, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the very definition of politician, Luca, is somebody seeking office for personal gain. That's what's written in the dictionary.
Yeah.
I consider myself a statesman. That's somebody that seeks office and seeks support of the people to represent the people.
Very good, very good. And you're retired right now, right? I mean, you served, how many years did you serve in office? I'm just curious. I forgot.
Sure, I did 26 years with the sheriff's office.
Wow.
I retired in May of 2015.
Wow.
I actually took a job. I took a job after that as a pro tem judge in Lake Havasu,
mm-hmm.
and then I got a lot of people calling me up, asking me to run, a lot of law enforcement officers. So I resigned from that position because I felt there would be a conflict of
mm-hmm.
interest, and I put my name in the hat.
How old are you?
I'm going to be 46 in a couple days here.
Wow, you're still very young. Very interesting. Very good. Very good. So and that's bottom line. You could have right now stay pretty much, retired. You don't have to really to work. I mean, you already your retirement. You put your years there. This is something that.
That's correct. That's correct. In fact, Luca, my wife thinks I'm crazy. She said, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
You worked so many years and it's such a stressful job. Why would you want to get back into it?" And the answer is simple. I care. I care about the people that work there. I care about all the law enforcement, and I care about the people.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, listen, I want to go more, something always, this is the type of questions normally I do to my guest, okay? I mean, this show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. We talk about guns. We talk, of course, about freedom. And, the first assets that I think we have as a human beings, I don't care if you're rich or poor, it's our body, okay? And I always believe that in the principle that we have rights until we infringe on somebody else's rights. So that's the bottom line. In a specific case, because this is part of your duties, we have federal laws that maybe in our state they are different from other states, but when it comes down to who owns our body, us or the government, that's the first question I would like to ask you, always with the specific clause that we do not infringe on somebody else's rights. And in this specific case is, for example, the safety belt, okay? We have a safety belt law that is a federal law that, correct me if I'm wrong, also in Arizona we're supposed to comply, maybe in a different way, you can specify. But when somebody, for example, for personal reasons, decides that I do not want to wear my seatbelt, okay? After all, I'm not endangering anybody else. It's my health, and I have health care, and I have my health insurance, whatever. You as a peace officer or law enforcement in this case, would you stop somebody and give him a ticket or not?
Well, first of all, just so you're clear on it, Luca, in the state of Arizona, you cannot be stopped solely for not wearing a seatbelt.
Good, okay.
There has to be probable cause to support any stop, and then that would be a subsequent violation if it were witnessed. I have never written a seatbelt violation ticket. I can tell you that I would strongly encourage people to wear them. I know that other officers have written the citation, and I agree, it is their person, but I think we have a legal quandary there in the sense that it is written into Arizona law, so that's a discretionary thing that's left up to the individual officer, and I always found that a simple warning is sufficient, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't get a citation from someone else.
Okay, but that's your personal choice, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to, say things wrong. You would not give a ticket, you give him a warning.
No.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't write a ticket for a seatbelt violation.
Okay, very good. And I say this may be probably a small things to many, but I think for many of us, it's the principles. The same story like now we have Obamacare. After all, if the government can tell you what is best for you when it comes down to your personal health, why we are surprised that the government can force us to buy a product or a service like healthcare and fine us when we already went through this safety belt law, okay, for many years we comply, or at least some of the states comply. Or look in New York, they can tell you, at least they try to tell you how much salt you can put in the restaurant. There were city laws that they outlaw salt, that. And very good. Okay, excellent. Now, before we go ahead, I always talk so much and always ask questions. Do you have any questions for me or for anything you want to say? I give you the floor.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't really have any questions, Luca. I just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I've been in this campaign only for about six weeks now. A lot of the other candidates have been in for some time. So I'm trying diligently to get the word out, and I've been very blessed. I told myself coming in that I would only surround myself with positive people, with good people. I've got God in my heart, and the bottom line is we're making a strong run, and I want to invite everybody to join the Schuster for Sheriff team. If you'd like to know more about me, you can certainly visit my webpage, www.schuster, SCHUSTER, 4, Sheriff, SHERIFF.com. That has a full breakdown of my accomplishments, my time, my tenure, what my stance is. I would really encourage people to go there, and if you would like to support, my phone number's listed as well. Give me a call anytime. I like meeting the people.
Very good.
I'm very, very blessed.
I wanted to give you the floor, but we are not finished yet. We are still at 10 more minutes, okay? I want to give you a few more questions.
I'm just throwing that out there now.
Perfect.
I didn't know your timeline.
No, and good, because I was going to ask you, please give your website. I want people to reach out directly so they can find out more, and this is very important. Very good. Now, This is something I ask to every candidate. I don't care if you're running for city council or state senator or whatever, okay? First of all, anything in your private life, it's your private business. I don't care. I want to be specific, and not because it's you, anybody. Somebody, I don't know, I have a personal sexual preferences or whatever, cheating, I don't care. It's none of my business, okay? But the only questions I would like to ask you is, because, we are here in the public business. After all, we need to know things connected to our our public life. So any things that we should know about things that happen to your life, connected to your public life, that we should be pretty much concerned, or maybe we should know more. And I give you specific. For example, I had cases in the past that people were putting claims against one of our state representatives that he has some sort of domestic violence. I brought him up, and we were upfront. He was upfront, and for me, I want to just bring the facts. I'm not here to judge anybody. Be clear that. So my question is, anything we should know about your life that could be, even if it's private, for example, I want to be specific. Let's say you had an affair with another person, none of my business. But let's say you had, for example, and this is not you, of course, I'm just talking generic, okay? Maybe a domestic violence case or a DUI. That's something that I believe as a person running for the sheriff office, especially as a sheriff, we should know. So I give you this simple generic question. Anything that we should know about things that are humans, mistakes can be done. Everybody can make mistakes. But we're here as potential people to hire you. We would like to know.
Sure. Look, nothing comes to mind. I would have to answer that with a solid no. I've always tried to do the right thing. I don't have anything that I'm trying to hide or cover up. So I would say no.
Okay. And as I said, I do this to every candidate. If you have the chance to listen to my next future interviews, they're going to get the same type of question. There is nothing specific for you.
No, I can appreciate it, and I'm glad you're attempting to vet the candidates. I think that's very important.
Because at this point, I want to say to the listeners, it is not just about today's broadcast that is going to be important. Maybe, I know a few thousand people will listen to the show, that's fine. But many people may forget. What I do about this show, the goal for me is to put on record everything we said today. It's going to be on YouTube. I'm going to release a specific interview just with your interview, like I will do with every candidate. And then at that point, my job is done. I want the listeners and the voters of Mohave County to decide the best way they can. And when the right person will be elected, or at least the new sheriff will be elected, and in the years or in time, they will be held accountable with these interviews. They can see exactly how they perform and how far they went away from the original statements or commitment. So that's pretty much for me the point of today's interview. Now, I received also some emails. As I told you, I opened the emails. This show is being recorded, but I try to make it interactive as possible through Facebook. So I got several emails. I removed the email that they come down to personal life. As I said, it's none of my business. I'm not going to ask anything that is between when I keep families away. There's something that we should have some rules. I don't want to bring anything familiar in these things. Okay, we keep to public business. So I already said to the listener, I'm not going to ask things that they're going to be like on National Enquirer. This is not the type of the show I do that. Okay, but I need to come down to things that they ask me, and I repeat exactly the way I was told. Okay, at least I was asked. Okay. First of all, one caller, or at least one email, asked me, why did you wait for Sheriff Jim McCabe to step down before you decided to run?
Okay. I really wasn't waiting for Jim McCabe to step down as much as I was waiting for the right candidate to step in.
Okay.
I had earlier aspirations of being a sheriff or being the sheriff. And quite honestly, Luca, towards the end of my career, I was looking forward to being done. I did not like the direction the department was going in, and that's why I got out. Once I was out, I realized very quickly that it wasn't the job or the people that were concerning me, but the continued negative direction the department went in. So I realized I had an opportunity to come in and make the changes that I couldn't do while I was working there. Okay, good. Okay, just very good. Now I have another question, another email. And, I don't know anything because, as I said, I'm not part of the sheriff department, but I think maybe somebody has some some experience about it. Has something happened between you and McCabe? Question. Has something happened between me and McCabe?
Yeah, I don't know how to interpret that. You tell me there is something there is something. I did. The email was pretty much straightforward like that. So I don't know how you want to interpret. Maybe something, some disagreement, or something that you don't get along with him. I don't know how you want to interpret this.
I'll say very openly that Jim McCabe and I have never seen eye to eye.
Okay, there was a straight answer. Okay, that's interesting to know. Very good. Now the final question, pretty much, I said I remove all the other things pertinent to private life because I don't care about those. Have you ever taken time off for anything, and why?
Have I ever taken time off the job for anything?
Yes.
Yeah, over the course of 26 years, I've taken plenty of time off. You know, every employee generates personal time, and I've taken time off for vacations. I've taken time off for the birth of some of my children.
Okay.
Took time off to remodel, and I've even taken time off just to regroup.
Okay.
Like I said, 26 years is a long time in law enforcement, and sometimes we need to get away from it when we can.
Okay. So I'm just curious because I got 2 emails about that, and I don't know why. I'm just trying to figure it out. Anything for medical reason?
Yes, I've taken time off for medical reasons. I've had some surgeries. I did take some time off. Boy, you really challenged me. It's been a lot of years here. Yes, I've taken time off for medical reasons and personal reasons.
Okay.
That's why the time is there. So I have never abused my time off.
Okay, good. I'm just asking. This is the section I leave open to everybody. By the way, when I'm going to have the next candidate, I invite everybody to go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com. And you don't even need to disclose your name. You know, I keep completely anonymity. You can send me an email with no name. My email is zanna@zanna.us. And as I said, if you keep the questions professional to business, to public business, we don't go into private life, I will ask exactly what you listeners and potential voters want to know. That's my job. That's all I can do. Okay? Very good. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you, this is something about, we have a few minutes. You heard about the Department of Defense program 1033, the militarization of police in general all over the states, all over the counties. And exactly the program 1033, we had a little bit of interaction a few months last year or so with myself, honestly, with the Sheriff McCabe regarding this use of this MRAP. It's armored vehicle that we found by accident that the county had. And my question was, why do we need, first of all, such a big, almost out of place, it's not exactly Iraq here, piece of hardware, and more important, how much it's going to cost us, and what are the conditions that we're supposed to keep them. That means I ask also to see the contract to exactly explain the rule of engagements and how you can keep this piece of hardware. Do you support, first of all, this Department of Defense program called the 1033? Number one question.
Okay, well, there's a couple, and I'm not 100% familiar with that. I can tell you that there is a government program that does supply surplus to law enforcement agencies. It might be the one you're talking about.
Yes.
And I think it's a valuable tool. I think certainly there are things that we can get to save our taxpayers the expense of having to buy it outright. Pertaining to that vehicle, I have no idea why we got it, and I don't. I remember thinking to myself, why are we paying to send it back? We paid to get it. We paid to send it back. It just seemed like an incredible waste to me.
Yeah, but did you ever read the contract, how to pretty much the conditions, how we could keep this armored vehicle? Because there were some specific conditions. Did you ever have a chance to read the contract? By the way, I never have a chance to have the real contract, but they gave me a document that was from the Payson police with the Department of Defense. So the question, did you ever have a chance to read exactly the contract for the condition?
No, Luca, under the administration I was working for before I retired out, I wouldn't have had access.
Okay, because let me tell you, the utilization of property, according to the federal government, the property received through the 1033 program must be placed into use within 1 year of receipt and utilized for a minimum of 1 year, unless the condition renders inusable. So that means pretty much that the county had to use this piece of hardware. We're talking about something that it's a beast. Okay, it takes a lot of gallons to keep them going, and I don't know how they could justify the use. And when I asked that to the Sheriff McCabe, and he said, "Please, Sheriff, tell us how you're going to comply with one of the points of this contract, because this is going to first of all cost us money, and why should we? How can you go around the county to justify that you're using this?" And there was no answer. And then they realized probably there was something that, we don't have. Because honestly, I will tell you something. If we had something that has no string attached for our defense of our county from any type of scenario, that would be something to consider. But when something sounds like free, not is free. Our federal government doesn't give us anything free without a string attached. You know that. Then we need to comply with all sort of other things, also giving away our sovereignty. So it's just something that, I know it probably wasn't your part of your information that you had, but something to consider. Listen, I want to thank you very much for your time. And as I said, I'm here just to give you the chance, all of you guys and girls, to have a voice and to be on record. So one more time, please, your website where people can reach you out.
Very good, Luca. Again, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed talking with you. My website is www.schuster, SCHUSTER, 4 sheriff.com. And please come visit it, join the Schuster team. We really believe that I'm the right person for the job, and our movement is growing, so we'd love to have you on board.
Very good.
And Luca, thanks again for your time.
Very good. And guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States to the FM network. And I said again, anybody running for any office, especially in Mohave County, you're welcome to be here. Now, don't forget, this show is not NPR. We do not steal your tax dollar, but we ask politely. So support the sponsors of the show. And if you want to support my broadcast specifically, you can go to one of my websites, Zanna Art, ZANNA, art.com. And you see what I do for a living? One of the things I do, I write songs. Download any of my songs. Don't be a cheap bastard. For just 99 cents, you can support this show. Thank you very much. Don't go away. Ready for our number 2, where we talk about guns and training.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.